Hey, let's start with story time. I remember one year, and I've got my notes here because I want to stay on point. I was approved for some executive coaching funding at my workplace at the time. For a black woman in a senior role at a private school, that's a big deal. It was a big deal for me. And that means that the institution was willing to invest in my professional development. So I went out looking for a coach. I quickly learned that something that I did not quite expect, and that was that it was harder than I thought it was going to be. The coaches that I found were used to coaching in the um, in the business world or coaching in the nonprofit world. And so I settled for a black woman because I like to have someone who looks like me to coach me. Yeah, thought that would be the best bet for me. And this woman that I found was brilliant, so smart, years of experience. She knew what she was doing. She knew what she was doing. What she did not know, however, she didn't understand my world, the world that I was living in. So every other week we would hop on a call. Before she could give me any guidance at all, I had to spend about 15 minutes of every session explaining the politics, the climate, and the specific culture of private school life. And then I had to spend some time telling her about the particular school that I was working in. She would give me her best advice. And I would know even before we left the call that what she told me was not going to work in my school. So, not because her advice was wrong. Her advice was good for her world. It just wasn't built for me. And that experience taught me something I now teach every person that I mentor. And it's a reason that I'm making this video. Shared identity does not always translate in every context. Learn that. And if a black professional working in a private school, if you're a black professional working in a private school right now, you have probably learned that too along your own journey. So I'm LeRhonda Greats. I spent 25 years working in private schools. And today I want to talk to you about why I believe deeply that what you may be looking for is mentorship, not coaching, and what it means for what you should be looking for, especially right now. So let me say this up front. I am not anti-coaching at all. Not at all. I got some, I'm not going to use that. Coaching is a real discipline, real talk. There are people out there who have trained for years to do it well. And when it's done well, it's powerful. A good coach asks better questions than you ask yourself. A good coach helps you set goals, helps you to hold yourself accountable, and stay in motion when your own motivation falters. If your obstacle is inside of you, your habits, your mindsets, your follow through, a coach can be transformational. I believe that, and I know that to be true. I want to honor that because I have nothing but respect for coaches who know what they're doing. But here's the thing about coaching as a discipline. Coaching is, at its core, a framework. The coach is trained in the framework. The framework is then applied to your life. The assumption underneath all of it is that your situation can be decoded by the framework. And it works. It helps people. If that framework works, if you answer the right questions in a specific order or in an order to get you down the path a little further, right? So And that assumption holds beautifully when the obstacles that you face live inside of you. It's personal, right? It breaks down when the obstacles you face, it breaks down, however, when the obstacles you face live inside an institution. Okay? So here is what nobody told me when I walked into my first private school. You keep hearing me talk about this because it's my experience, right? The world has rules that nobody is going to write down for you. It's not in your offer letter. It's not in the handbook. It's not in the faculty orientation. It's not even in the leadership training the school may book for you after a difficult board meeting. The rules are in the air. I guess that's where they live. In the hallway conversations, when your colleagues invite you to lunch. And which colleagues invite you to lunch and which ones don't. Me and this script are on a struggle bus. But I have to keep following it because it keeps me in line. Okay. Which parents call the development office instead of calling you directly? And which board members make eye contact in the carpool line? You ever had that happen? Some make eye contact and others treat you like you're one of them lampposts. And what gets said in the meeting and what gets said in the parking lot or the hallway after the meeting. Private school life is run on a layer of unwritten codes. And I'm not saying that it's only private school life. I'm just talking about the place that I spent 25 years. I know that to be true. So here's the issue. A coach, even a brilliant, well-credentialed, deeply ethical coach, cannot teach you a code that they have never had to live by. And let me add a caveat in here. I have some coaching friends who lived and worked in private schools. So you have more options today than I did when I was out looking for a coach. So you do have some other coaching options, some coaches who have walked the walk that you are walking currently and can probably help you. But that's not what this is about. This is about my community and what I'm building. Okay, so let me give you an example. I've already done that. In coaching, there's a very common framework. You bring a problem to a coach. The coach asks, what outcome do you want? What is in your control? What is one action that you can take this week? Okay. That framework is beautiful for someone navigating a career pivot on their own time. It is genuinely useful. But try applying that framework to this situation. You're the only Black person on a senior leadership team in a private school. A parent has gone over your head directly to the head of school because they do not like a decision that you made. The head of school supports you in private, but does not back you up in writing. Now an entire department is watching how it plays out, and the next 2 weeks of meetings will determine whether your authority survives the rest of the school year. What outcome do you want? To not lose your job. What's in your control? Very little. What is one action that you can take this week? Now that's where the framework kind of runs out of the road. Runs out of roadway, right? Because the real question is not what action I can take. The real question is, in this specific school, with this specific head of school, with this specific board, with this specific donor base, what is the political move that protects my position without making me look defensive? That's not a framework question. That's a room question. That's what coaching cannot really give you. I want to be very clear about something else. This isn't about coaching being bad. It's about some coaching being built for a different problem. If your problem is I need to lose 15 pounds, a coach is incredible. If your problem is I want to write a book in a year, a coach is fantastic. If your problem is procrastinating on your doctoral thesis, hey, get on that and get yourself a coach, because your coach will help you stay in line and help you meet your goals, so you're not walking around being ABD, everything but my dissertation. Come on, finish that doctorate, doctor. But if your problem is something just shifted in my school that nobody is willing to name out loud, and I'm trying to figure out what it means for me, you do not need a framework. You need someone who has watched that exact movie before. And that person is a mentor. Okay, so what is mentorship? All that about coaching. Mentorship is not just an older version of coaching, different version of coaching. And it's the one thing, it is its own thing entirely. A mentor is someone who has lived the institution that you're trying to navigate, who sat in the rooms that you now sit in, who has made the mistakes that you're about to make, who has watched colleagues make those mistakes and seen the cost of that. A mentor doesn't ask you what actions could you take this week. A mentor says, here's what I did the first time this happened to me. It almost cost me my career. Here's what I would do now. And here's what I want you to think about before you act. That's a completely different kind of guidance. All right? And here's what I want every Black professional watching this to hear me say very clearly. Because I think we have been sold something that was never quite right for us. You do not need someone to help you unlock what is inside of you. Sometimes you do. That's not true. Sometimes you do. But in the specific, when you're in the sauce, right? Something has happened. You already know what's inside of you. The world has been making you justify what's inside of you since you were a child. Okay, so you need something and someone who can tell you what's inside the institution and help you see it very clearly. So you stop blaming yourself for the things that the institution is doing. That's the gift of mentorship. It's the gift of someone who has been there, saying what you are experiencing is not in your head. I have seen it. I have lived it. And here's how I survived it. And here's how you might. So I want to tell you how I learned the lesson myself. I didn't have a mentor when I walked into my first private school. There was no LeRhonda in the hallway saying, let me tell you what you're walking into. There was no community of Black educators in private schools when I started. In my school, there was no community for Black educators in my school. We actually created one in the state that I was living in. So what I had was a few colleagues in other schools nearby who became my official mentors and peer mentors. These were women working in schools like mine, in roles like mine, who knew exactly what I was carrying. We didn't have a name back then. We didn't have Substack or a YouTube channel or a school community. We had each other's phone numbers. And don't be talking about that was back in it wasn't the Stone Age. It wasn't that long ago. It was a while ago. But we had each other's phone numbers and a willingness to pick up the phone when one of us was in something that was deep. And every single big career move that I made over 25 years, every transition, every difficult conversation, every moment I almost left and chose to stay, every moment I stayed and then chose to leave was shaped by what those women and sometimes men told me about what they had already lived through, what they had gone through. I've had several of these, not just in New Jersey, because I moved around to different schools and there were different groups of people who we kind of made a little click, and they understood what I was going through and they helped me walk through the doors that I need to. They dried my tears, and they helped me kind of put my armor back on when I didn't feel like I was going to make it. Those, I could start naming them, but I won't, because this video will get too long. Y'all know who you are. If you're watching this, you know who you are. I never will forget, okay, because that's mentorship. I've told this story also. A few years ago when I was at POCC, the National Association of Independent Schools People of Color Conference, and I was in a room where I met educators who had been in workshops with my daughter who grew up in attending these private schools, and now she is working in these schools. So it was quite it was quite an honor for me to be at the conference as an educator and then have my daughter, who also works in these schools, to be at the same conference, sitting in the same workshops with me. And I realized something while I was standing around the conference, that there is now a whole nother generation of Black professionals coming up behind me who deserve what I did not have. They deserve to walk in already knowing what the rules are, already knowing what to watch for, already knowing what is in their head and what is in the institution. So being able to tell the difference. They deserve mentorship from someone who has been there. And that's why I built our own lane. That's why I'm doing this work now, because the community I needed did not exist at the beginning of my career, and I refuse to let the next generation walk through this alone. Whew. So that brings me back to you. If you're a Black professional watching this right now and have gotten past all of my errors as I read from my paper, and you're wondering why the leadership development your school keeps sending you to is not quite landing, I want you to hear me. It's not because you're not coachable. It's not because you need to work on your mindset. Some of you do, some of us do, I still do. It is not because there is something wrong with you. It's because the help you have been offered was built on a different set of obstacles than the ones that you're actually facing. You don't always need a better framework. You need a better guide. You need someone who has been in the room, who knows the specific weather in this profession, who can tell you the difference between this is something to push back on and this is something to wait out, who can read the politics of the private school the way other people read a weather forecast. And that is what I do now. And that is what our own lane is for. So that's the work I want to invite you into today. If everything that I just said landed somewhere in you, if you have you are tired of frameworks that don't fit, and you're ready for guidance from someone who has been in the room, I have two ways that I can help you. If you're ready for an immediate strategic reset, I offer a 45-minute career compass strategy session. It's a private one-on-one call You bring me your biggest current roadblock and we map it together. You leave the call with a clear next step. The investment is $97 for that 45-minute call. The link to book is the first link in the description below this video. If you are not ready for that step yet, and you want, then I want to invite you into the on-ramp. It's my free community for Black professionals in private schools, a place to connect, to share what you are carrying, to stop figuring this out alone. And that second link is also down below. So either way, whether you book a call or you join the community, what I want you to know is this. There is a lane for you. There is a community for you. And you don't have to figure this out alone. I'll see you inside.